It was a very productive meeting. It always seems to be when we meet in person.
Okay, if I can have everybody's attention, it's 7 o'clock. This is the March 7th planning board meeting for the town of Hamlin. Before I call the meeting to order, the emergency exits are out the door and to the left, out the door and to the right, down the end of the hall. There's an EED out in the hall, on the wall, if needed. It can be used. At this time, I'd ask everybody that might have an electronic device or telephone or anything else that might make noise that would interrupt someone who might have something to say against me, I'd like to turn it off at this time. With the exception of one of the members on the board, because you can find anything that he's quiet about. All right, so that being said, we'll call the roll.
Linda DeRue. Here. Steve Law.
Here.
Dave Martin.
Dave's been excused.
Chris Schleider.
I'm here.
Mark Ballerstein.
Here.
James Nesbitt.
Here.
Steve Hittner.
Here.
Okay, we've got a couple public hearings here tonight. And if Cheryl, you could read the proof of publication, and then we'll go into approval of last month's meeting.
Okay, public hearing, commercial site plan approval, Vincent Robitelli, 8 Lake Road, East Fork. Application of Vincent Robitelli, owner of Vincent Robitelli, seeking a commercial site plan approval to reopen and operate an existing marina located at 8 Lake Road, East Fork. This is an RCW zoning district, tax account number 006.12-001-001. Then we have another one, public hearing, preliminary and final site plan approval for PEM LLC, 1722 Lake Road. And we're also going to add 1730 is on the agenda also. Application of PEM LLC owners, Denali Excelsior LLC and PEM LLC for commercial concept site plan application review to merge two properties at 1722 and 1730 Lake Road into one parcel and construct a new convenience store with a gas canopy, car wash, vacuum station. This is in the commercial neighborhood business zoning district, tax account number 021.03-3-2.1 and 0.021.03-3-28. All interested parties will be given the opportunity to be heard at this time.
Okay, very good. Has everybody on the board had a chance to review last month's meeting? And if so, are there any corrections, deletions, or any other issues that might have been brought up by reviewing this document? If there isn't, I'll accept the motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve. That's February 17th.
I'll second it.
Call the votes, please.
Linda DeRue.
Yes.
Steve Law.
Abstain.
Chris Schleider.
Yes.
Mark Ballerstein.
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Steve Hittner.
Abstain.
Okay, very good. And this, we did something.
I was just wondering if you had more chairs, but we can't bring any more in, I guess.
We have,
There's
are
at
there
least
any
three.
empty chairs here?
There's one right
There's a couple empty chairs. Feel free to come in and use them.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. All right. First item on the agenda is a public hearing for a commercial site plan and the possible approval for Vincent Robitelli at number 8 Lake Road, East Fork, which would be known as the Sandy Creek Marina. Once again, yes, it's your starting point.
My name is Vince Robitelli. I'm here to seek reopening Sandy Creek Marina. I'd like to introduce my engineer, Rod Prosser from Lakeside Engineering. He's helped me on the project along the way. We plan to reopen Sandy Creek Marina, clean up the property, refill in the parking lot, move the gas tanks, put all new floating docks in, upgrade the lighting, fence in our new gas location, and just variously basically clean up the property. Bring it back to a nice, friendly community marina. Private, without having the launches open to the public. I think that's everything.
Discussion, but it's a good item to bring up. Does your engineer have anything else to?
That says it all, as far as,
Okay.
except for questioning Alan's from the way
Okay.
he's saying from the, we got any.
Comments from the public? If you'll stand up, state your name one at a time, so the clerk can get it down in the record and voice your concerns or opinions or suggestions. Is there anybody here who would like to speak? Mr. Howard?
My name is Pat Palinzi. I live at 16 Lake Road, East Fork. My property directly borders the marina. And talking with the neighbors, but I'll speak for myself only tonight. We all would like to see that marina go, because we're tired of looking at the place as it is. You all know the shape of that marina. It's an eyesore. So if Mr. Vince wants to fix that up, I'm all for it.
I'll make you guys proud.
I'm sure you will. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions, concerns?
Angel Mail, 2371 North Hamlin. What's your timeline on this project? Is it going to be phases broken out? When do you expect completion?
I would say it's gonna take about 2 years, depending on if we get our phase 2 approval from the DEC, which we're still waiting on. Our phase 1 plan is to go in there, clean up the property, and get some floating docks in so we can get some revenue going, while we're waiting for that to come in. So it'd be probably phases over 2 years. I mean, right now I can't get a tractor trailer full of lumber, and floats I can't even get enough. So there's a lot of things out there that's gonna slow it down. So, but I'd say 2 years.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's not going to be any more concerns or anything from the public at this time, I'd like to close this portion of the public hearing for this. Okay, and ask for some comments from town attorneys and the engineers and Janine from the Conservation Board. Concerns, questions, we're at the process. We've been looking at this now for a while.
I don't have any concerns. Everything seems to be in order.
It would be consistent with the LW.
Yes, it is.
Okay, JP.
All of our engineering concerns that we raised earlier have been addressed. You know, we have a good engineered plan now that Rod put together, and we have the contours and the lighting and all the issues that we had requested early on, and then we addressed the gas location and the parking locations. All that has been addressed, so I think we have a good plan now.
Keith.
If you approve the project, I would ask that you make it contingent upon attorney approval. I would like to make it a condition of approval that it's subject to my approval, because I want to make sure that all the easements are called out on the plans by Library and Page of Deeds, which is the custom. The other legal issue I had a concern about was, I believe the handicap parking has to be asphalt or concrete, and I'm not sure that is the plan here.
I think earlier on, maybe we had talked about it being signed.
Well, there have to be signs as well, striping and all that, but you can't just do handicap parking on top of stone or dirt.
If it's a private marina, does it come on the SPCs of being open to the public? It doesn't meet the criteria for handicap accessibility. Or is it an issue?
Well, it is open to the public.
Yeah.
Well, right, but I mean, it's a private club. Do we do that, let's say, down at the yacht club?
I'm not going to speak about the yacht club, which is a pre-existing use. This is a brand new site plan. I mean, they're calling out spaces on the plan. It's just a question of having them paid. And besides, how does one stripe stone? I don't think that works.
Weekly basis.
There.
Well, a lot of, do we need to go to zoning board again, which I don't think is,
No, that's a federal law, it's not a zoning issue.
that's, how many parking spots are on there?
4 handicaps. I mean, if the law says we have to pave them, we'll pave them, just as long as there's a decision there. I mean, if I don't have to pave them, it's kind of funny to have 4 individual spots out there, but if that's what it takes, you know.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna take the ball and bounce it to Cheryl and say, I'd like you to be able to state, okay, that under federal law, as advised by our attorney, whether or not there needs to be a paved handicap parking or a showing of page striping and, whatever, and then work it out with Vince when he comes in first.
Okay.
All right. And Cheryl, do you have any other concerns? Thank you, by the way.
No, we do not. We've worked with Mr. Robitelli for probably close to 2 years, give or
About a year and a
take.
quarter, yeah.
And I think he's come up with a good plan that's acceptable.
Good.
No, I think we've been over everything, and I'm very pleased with the way the project is gonna go ahead.
Thank you, looking forward to starting.
So I think they've done a lot of homework in here, and it's a good project for the town.
My only question, you know anything about electric powered boats, and if so, you're gonna put a charging station?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
The answer would be you're trying to put shore power in front of everything. We could get an inverter or something. Go ahead.
Yes, I
I think it's a very good project, asset to the community, and, you know, it's good to be at Sandy Creek.
Awesome.
No comments here, that's good.
I think he's done a wonderful job of researching, designing, and applying. Good luck.
We're gonna build a good one,
Okay.
if I can get the lumber.
Aluminum might be cheaper.
I know, I'm looking at everything.
Would you like a motion?
Oh, I'd like to look at the seeker for this.
It's unlisted, right?
Resolution.
Yes.
It's unlisted. All right, I'll make a motion that the board consider the proposed commercial site plan approval for Vincent Robitelli at 8 Lake Road, Eastport, to be classified as an unlisted action for the purpose of conducting an uncoordinated review of the seeker. And upon the record before, the planning board makes a finding that action will have no significant impact on the environment and adopts a negative declaration.
Second.
Linda Drew,
Yes.
Steve Locke,
Road.
Chris Schleider,
Yes.
Mark Ballerstein,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Steve Pittman.
Yes.
Okay, with the project in general, outside of seeker, I will entertain a motion with the caveats as listed by our town attorney. And between him and our town engineer, lines and easements and a drawing be shown in the library page. Someone like to make that motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the commercial site plan for Vincent Robitelli, 8 Lake Road, Eastport. Owner Vincent Robitelli seeking commercial site plan approval to reopen and operate an existing marina located at 8 Lake Road, Eastport. This is in the R-CW zoning district, tax account number 006.12-001-001, with requirement, the approval being subject to our attorney's approval of the final,
Any other caveat to that? That the ADA space is meet code. The only thing it says about ADA space is that a code needs to be stable, firm, and slip resistant.
yeah, okay, that's it. Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, Linda Drew,
Yes.
Steve Locke,
Yes.
Chris Schleider,
Yes.
Mark Ballerstein,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Steve Pittman.
Yes.
Very There you go. All right.
I'd like to thank the board for all your time and consideration, and Rod helped me out through this project, and we look forward to building something good in the community.
Best of luck.
Thank you, have a good night.
Long haul.
Thank you.
Okay. Second item on the agenda. Preliminary and final site plan approval for PEM LLC at 1722 Lake Road. Quickly, I believe representatives are here once again tonight. And at this time, I will open it up to their presentation.
Thank you, Matt Tomlinson, Marathon Engineering. Lou from Quicklies is with me here as well. We were here last month before the board received several comments, both from staff as well as from the board, relative to some considerations, and have revised the plans, had some correspondence with the state DOT, which I know was kind of the critical timeline as far as getting answers relative to the driveway configurations. I wanted to just take a couple of minutes to refresh the board's memory and any members of the public relative to what we're proposing, and then I'll just run through the changes very quickly that we've made in response to the comments that we received last month when before this board. So as mentioned, we're requesting preliminary and final approval for the site plan, as well as a lot combination for 1722 and 1730 Lake Road. We're proposing a convenience store, gas station, and car wash on the proposed sites. We are in compliance with zoning. There's one existing non-conforming condition on the site, being almost 90% lot coverage in its current configuration. With the updates and modifications that we've made since the last time we were here, we've been able to reduce that down to 73%, where 66% is required. Some of the comments that were received last month relative to this was determining the driveway configuration. Our original proposal that we submitted to this board as well as to the state DOT had 3 driveways. I'm sure the board is aware, but right now the entire frontage of the property essentially is paved. We were looking to reduce that to 2 defined entrances onto Route 19 and 1 onto Route 18 on the north side of the site. State DOT came back and said that they are not permitting 3 driveways now for any driveway or any convenience store locations. So we've been working with them to come up with a configuration that works. The number of driveways and the location of the driveways have been agreed to. We are still working through the permit review process, which requires contractors to be on board for insurances and that kind of thing. One item that is still in a little bit of flux is the plans that we resubmitted back to you guys, and for the initial conversation to the DOT was for a 40-foot wide driveway on the south side, and that really was driven by, or excuse me, to Route 19, that really was driven by the tanker fuel delivery vehicle and its need to get into the site coming northbound on Route 19 and then circle out through the Route 18 access. State DOT's requested us to examine skinning that up by about 6 feet and just making the radius a little bit bigger, because they like to limit the width of those driveways. But again, the location and essentially the geometry has been approved. We would expect, if we are successful in getting our approvals tonight, that that would still be conditioned on final sign off by the state DOT for that permit. We also have shifted the car wash building and the bypass lane. We had received comments looking to maximize the green space to the south. So we shifted that whole configuration up 8 feet to the north, and we narrowed the bypass lane for the drive-through stacking by a couple of feet to the minimum required 20 feet for emergency vehicle access around to the rear of the building for fire code. So that's shifted a total of, moved it 5 feet and then 3 feet. So a total of 8 feet greater separation to the south. The fence material has been revised to a white vinyl, as we discussed with the board, versus a stockade or a board fence. And we believe that'll look very nice. We've relocated the landscaping that was present at the rear of the convenience store on the drive-through stacking aisle and moved that to around the sign and various landscape beds near the entrance to upgrade the visibility in those areas. We've also added some additional plant material around the dumpster location, added some trees along the fencing along with some landscaped mulch beds in those areas adjacent to the parking, to the church, to the south and west. We've added some notes to the plan relative to just coordination for sanitary sewer tie-ins. I know that was a question relative to the piece that we were going to relocate through the site and clean up the jogs through that area. We've submitted the car wash noise information relative to doors open, doors closed, and we have added additional snow storage areas to the site plans. And that was kind of a list of the comments that we received. We've also received town engineer comments and responded in writing to those. I'm sure that we'll have a couple final details to clean up with JP in his office as we go through final signatures on the plan, but again, would expect, if we're successful with approvals tonight, that will be conditioned on complying with those. Lou, anything that I missed that you wanted to?
No, I thought you had to, we generally and Director Real Estate quickly, any other questions, operations, anything like that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, with that being said, with your presentation, anybody from the audience like to stand up, state their name for the clerk, and give us some of your comments?
Yes, John Picard, 1753.
How are you tonight?
Good, good, Chris, thanks. Excuse me. I'm here tonight to raise some concerns, not so much with the plan to start with, but more with the notification. As you suggested, Chris, I drafted a letter with those concerns. In terms of timely notification, we received this on Friday night when we got home, that this meeting, it was stuck in our door, a bunch of the neighbors. So we were, you know, what's this all about? And when we first read it, you know, it read concept and sketch approval. But if you read into it, it actually is for preliminary and final. This is the first we're hearing about it. A proposal. It's a very nice proposal, but it's a very large proposal for the town of Hamlin. And it affects a lot of people. It's in the town center. This property, you know, has been a problem, and it's great to see some development. My concern is with the notification. And if you let me summarize, timely notification, you got this on Friday, meeting is today. I spent most of the weekend researching what quicklease, what it is, what we're looking at. I finally got the plans this morning, stopped into the town office. Cheryl was nice enough to provide me a copy of it, and I appreciate that. But one business day is not enough there's a number of residents that I think are in the same boat, that they just got, you know, a piece of paper. Now, some of them were sent out, I understand 27.
There were 27 sent out on February 22nd.
But it's just interesting that there's a lot that aren't out there. And we're finding about this now, and this is going to final approval, or what I understand, preliminary and final.
I'd like to say something in response to that in speaking with the town attorney, once something has been mailed, it's been mailed as far as they're concerned. I did my due diligence when I realized that not everyone had received their letters, even though they were mailed, and I hand delivered every notice to everyone by hand so that you would get something on time. And I would hope that the residents would appreciate that gesture, because I didn't have to do that, but I did. And a lot of people weren't home, so I kind of looked, there was still snow on the ground, so I kind of looked at what door you would be using, and I put it in that door, like a storm door, I put it in that door. so that you at least get it to digest it over the weekend.
Okay, with all that being said, and it's not your idea to try to cause any hostile environment or anything.
Not at all.
And you and I had a very, very nice conversation. I thought it was mundane to the town to have this brought up. There was nothing done intentional. This project is, I spoke to this weekend, when it was brought to my attention, okay, that this project's been in the mill since November. If people are interested enough to know what's going on, other than having a paper delivered to them, we have a town website. We have a website that lists our meeting agendas early on. We have a website that has a brief synopsis of meetings, both town board, planning board, zoning board of appeals. Okay, there's a lot of information out there. And while I'm happy to see a turnout for any project that fills the room, because this is how we serve you, okay? But we still have to approve stuff through town subdivision law, through our zoning code, and all that other stuff. And by the fact of electing your officials and having us appointed to board and having legal counsel, certified code compliance officer, as well as a professional engineering department, and the makeup of this board are the multifaceted people that we have on it. And if briefly I'll say it and share it with your neighbors so I can get back to the public hearing for everybody else. There seems to be a problem with the system with you being notified.
Well,
It's not an eternal.
Just me.
No, I do care about the people that are interested in this. But like I told you, and like Cheryl said, once it's turned over to the mail delivery folks, it's in their hands. They have let the town of Hamlin down. And one of my, as well as the board's responsibility, but mine primarily, is that these meetings are done in a proper manner. Notifications are done properly, and every other type of town code is followed properly so that we have the ability to discuss this with the public. I don't know, this is not the first time this has happened, okay? The reason why I asked for this letter is to tell you how important it is. You can have an approval go awry just because someone perceives there's no due diligence, or you get accused of fast-tracking a process. And I'll tell you, as well as everybody else, that that is not the case. If you would look at the stack of documents that has come, okay, and as far as we've gone with this applicant and their engineers, you'll find we have done our due diligence, and we've had discussion on Saturday. I'm bringing it up to everybody. But if we have a problem with a notification, okay, that has to be addressed. And if I have to send a letter to the town board, I will. But this is going in the file. Thank you for bringing it up to us tonight, and now I'd like to go on with a public hearing, if we may.
Well, if I'd like,
I'd like to hear the rest of this, because the rest of the people also need to know too.
Okay.
You have a,
well,
I appreciate your time you spent on it, and the people that have signed it back. And we've taken it under advisement, publicly. That's gotta be enough for now.
Is it?
Yes,
So
it is.
the public can't speak, the public can't,
No, it's enough of it from your portion of it.
But I haven't-
Because the notification was it, I'm not gonna get in an argument with you.
nobody else
This
knows.
is my meeting. You will find that the public hearing and the rest of the information here tonight is for this project.
Mhm.
Okay? Thank you very much.
I have some comments on the plans.
You can have comments on the plans, but let's get started, and we'll come back to you with those comments on the plan, and we'll take them under advisement. Okay?
So much for,
All right, is there anybody else who have comments on this plan, questions? Lori, please.
Hi, I'm Lori Ruth. I own the car wash, Top Notch Wash. And I did not know anything about this until my daughter said something to me and she saw it on the town board website. So being the fact that I own a car wash already, it would have been nice to be notified that somebody was going to put another car wash in the town of Amherst. That's all I have to say as far as notification. It would have been nice to know that. Could I have gone to the website? Yeah, but I don't usually get involved in a lot of Hamlin stuff unless it is my neighbor or it affects me personally. We had a gas station which we ran on the corner, and there was another gas station next to it. Then Crosby's went in down the street. Then Tops went in. For a while, there was 4 gas stations in the town of Hamlin, and gradually you saw that the 2 on the corner went out of business because of the other 2 that came in. So K&K tried to put a car wash down there. They had 2 bays. It did absolutely nothing. They closed it up afterwards, and now it's got storage or something in it. The car wash that's down at the corner, that was down at the Forks, closed up. We thought about buying that at the time, but there was too much work that had to be done to revamp that whole building because it just couldn't be done with the same amount of money that we could build the whole new one. My concern, obviously, is the fact that I already own the car wash, and I don't necessarily want the competition in town with my car wash, nor do I think Hamlin population can handle all of these car washes and gas stations or whatever the case may be. So I'm kind of surprised that Tops and Crosby's have not said more about another gas station going into town. My concern is that. I don't want to go out of business because somebody's taking business away from me.
Anybody else have any considerations, design considerations, that we can fly by the applicant and see if there's some issues? We're not done talking about the whole thing, so no, go ahead.
Nina Hansel, 1765 Lake Road. I was just wondering, as far as buildings, is there a law of how close, because they're commercial, the church isn't really residential, like of how close they have to be? And is there a concern about that 66, because we're not reaching that minimum, we're going to the 70? And I do think that, I didn't know about it till the 27th in the letter, and then Cheryl was gracious enough, and she did give me a letter, and I was very grateful for that. But like, I don't have internet, you know, that costs money, and everybody can't afford everything, and so I have to go on my little phone to look all that up. And so it's not always feasible. Like, I know it sounds good in theory, but everybody isn't in the same position right now. So I guess there's more things to consider that I don't know if everybody is considered, and I hope you are. I mean, I'm a hairdresser. I hear rumors like it's going to start April and it's going to be done by August. And you know, I can start throwing names out there, and they're legitimate names, but it doesn't really do any good. I just hope it's not cut and dried, and I have nothing against it. I know you're level-headed because you dealt with it when the other car wash went in, when my parents' property got flooded up, when they changed the West Creek. And so things happen, and this on the corner with the CDC thing, you know, I've had people come in and say to me, this is your center of Hamlin? It's embarrassing. I mean, I think this Quigley's would be a nice thing and it would look good, and I trust you guys that you're gonna do the right thing.
Okay, very good. Now do we have some additional design concerns?
I'm Mike Sands, 1749 Lake Road.
Okay.
Is there security going to be there? Is this a 24-hour convenience store? Are there going to be cameras around?
Yes and yes. 24 hours, and we have appropriate cameras of the lot and inside the store.
As the applicant, you might want to stand up and talk back and forth. Can you show, last gentleman that just stood up and asked that question, where's your house in location to this? How far down? Are you across the street?
So this is the church right here. I'm actually right next to VFW.
Okay.
The reason why I say this is because I was actually the guy that dealt with the last murder in Hamlin. No more. I can't deal with it anymore. And that happened, my kids saw that. They saw the kid go by being killed. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on at midnight. I mean, things that happen over here that's been approved by the board. 2 o'clock in the morning, the guys banging on doors and stuff.
You call the police?
The police are always there. 24/7 they're there. And now you're gonna put this beautiful building next to that?
That's not what it's an issue tonight, but.
But it's a concern.
Right.
From the public.
It is zoned for that, okay? It's an allowable zone. There was a convenience store and a gas station there before. In fact, there was a center of the town for ice cream and everything else.
Absolutely.
At one time, it was a very nice site.
Absolutely.
You know, unfortunately, things have been let go and it hasn't been taken care of. That being said, we're still trying to entertain safety issues and concerns. Okay.
And, what he's putting here was the concept is great. But as far as security wise goes, and someone's got to look into that.
What does your security plan involve? Does it keep a continuous record?
It keeps a continuous record. It's a 360 on the site, on the property, on the building, and it keeps a record. So we have security cameras, as I said, on the inside and the outside of the building. We'll have appropriate lighting, which doesn't spill off the property and meets the appropriate engineering codes for that, so the property will be appropriately lit without spilling out in each other location. As far as the property in the corner, I mean, I can't speak to that, you know.
As part of your security plan and profile, you take into account neighboring properties and focus, and so you're not looking over a fence at somebody's house?
No, not at all.
Okay. John, you have some design concerns, huh?
Oh, I think we got one more back there first.
Okay.
Darlene Tipton, and we live at 2847 Roosevelt Highway, which is right next to the entrance on Roosevelt Highway. I'm excited about this whole thing because with not having anyone there, there is beer bottles breaking all the time. We hear things in the parking lots, and to have someone there, I think is going to be great. My main concern is the businesses that were there before are higher than us, so we get all the runoff in our yard and we turn into a swamp. Want to know if anything can be directed towards fixing some of that if they're going to level and rebuild.
Can you answer now? Yeah, absolutely, great question. So, one of the things that we're doing right now, the whole site essentially is pavement and building, so we are reducing that and changing some of it into grass, which is gonna help. Now the soils aren't great out here, so not a lot of it's gonna go down into the ground, but that will slow things down a little bit. We are a little bit constrained by, as you know, it's very flat out there, and it kind of just goes towards the road and then into the swale out there. So we are providing some dished out areas to try to help store some of that water for a little bit longer before it goes out that way to try to help alleviate that. But unfortunately, I can't promise that we're gonna fix anything, but what we're doing is definitely gonna make it a little better.
I'm sorry, quick question. What about snow removal between the church and the fence that's gonna be there? We have 4 trees. How's the church supposed to remove their snow?
You want to take that? I mean, we do a combination of, with our snow removal, if it needs to be trucked off the site, if it gets too much, if the areas that we can push it through are clogged, if you will, we'll truck it off. That's how.
I'm sorry, for the church. It's for the church, I'm sorry. Because you're putting in a fence between you and them. And normally they don't.
I can't answer for the church, I can only answer for.
But as a concerned citizen, that is a concern, because otherwise it's going to the ditch across the road, which that's not legal right.
What does the church do with the snow now?
They put it into the green space.
Their green space? Their green space, or is
Whatever,
it
I'm sorry, I don't know
It
that.
goes in our space, doesn't it?
somebody else?
Most of it goes into our space.
Does it?
But it's gonna be hard to try and Put it in the fence. We can't put it near the fence.
Is there any way that can be mitigated by this site?
So we had originally looked at not putting a fence through there and just having the landscaping, but considerations relative to just visual screening behind the landscaping, we did put the fence there just to screen the parking lot and the church. If there's consideration or snow storage is an issue, we'd be open to leaving the fence off of the end of the parking lot there if that was amenable to the church.
Yeah, I agree with Matt, we'll defer to the board. If you not wanna have the fence, so it helps the neighbor with the snow issue, then that's fine. Either way, whichever the board would just prefer.
Okay.
You
good? You
Phil.
had some design.
I have some,
I got a question, Chris. Phil Hurlbut, 2 Winners Place. You might have answered this already, but what is the barrier for the property to the north? Is that just a guardrail or stone or?
Yeah, just stone. So, good question. Right now it's just paved or broken asphalt all the way across. So we can only go to our property line in order to get our truck movement for the fuel deliveries and vehicles going back and forth with the exit. We can only do so much. So we're gonna just basically put down a pea stone or a wash stone in between those two. Water runs off in that direction right now. So we're not putting any kind of a physical barrier or anything up on that side.
Is that a curb there, I'm saying, or?
No curb, yeah, it's just, we're just gonna have the pavement edge. We got about 4 feet of a wash stone, filter area, if you will, just to slow down the storm water going through there.
Okay. Another comment?
well, just to stay on that same line of questioning, so you can't put a fence on that north edge, because now that essentially is gonna turn into an egress to the property?
There's no egress there, no. There's some grade change over there, and the pavements will be separated by a mulch bed.
Well, there's a bunch of people that cut through there now.
Well, that'll be something that Lou keeps an eye on, and if it becomes an issue, we can add something over there later.
But you said it was a turning movements for the vehicle going through. I'm just trying to understand how.
On our site, so.
Right, no, I understand.
We have a WB65, big tanker for delivery. That's gonna come through, get around the end of the island and come up before it goes around.
Right. So how would a fence be impacted by that?
There might be a foot or two where there could be a guardrail or some sort of barrier, so no one would cut through and still gives the truck the ability to get around what. Before we had that question, and your question is a good one, we just were giving the truck as many feet as we could, to get around there. But if we need to shorten that up a foot or two, we have it with the truck movement, and we could put in a guardrail or something.
Or could you come from Lake Road as far as you need and then end the fence just enough to let the WB65 through there on the end? Then you're fully defining that north edge. I think.
I didn't follow your question, so.
And from your point of view, you're looking right at that property there. If you put a 6-foot fence or an 8-foot fence, you're not looking at that, and that property's a problem.
Yeah, understood.
So, I think you're better off putting a fence as far as you can and still allow the vehicle to transit through the site.
We're also trying to maximize a couple of things. One being, we don't want to create a hiding spot that's a problem behind the fence that's over there. Number 2, we're lighting that area, and understand that there is limited room between what we need for our turning movements and development and where we can't modify. Right now, their pavement comes right to the property line, so that's where we're cutting it. So there isn't really room to create a large buffer in that area. We think that a fence, to the point on the snow removal, would get damaged by the use of the pavement on the other side of that, become a maintenance issue. So for a lot of reasons, we would prefer to leave that off on that side. We also don't want this to look like an entirely enclosed, walled gas station here, so.
Now, what also could be done is possibly size some stones appropriately and put it along that. We'll see how it works.
So you mean boulders?
Boulders, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and that's more on the operations and maintenance side. If Lou sees something that's becoming a problem, it gets out there.
We could space them appropriately so a car can't get through.
And that's our concern,
gonna go, no one's gonna, I'm sorry, you're gonna have great
And we
landscaping.
don't want that to happen either, so we're all on the same
You're gonna
page.
have great landscaping,
Yeah.
being a resident, I can see going through it.
I like the boulder idea. I think that would.
I think that'd be nice.
I think that would satisfy your concerns and satisfy our concern is the same. So,
You know, the visuals will still not be well from the front of the store, but, I mean, you're the owners. Hours of operations, you mentioned 24/7?
Yes, sir.
Car wash as well?
No, we limited that, I believe we said to 10 PM.
How about on Sundays for the church?
Sundays, it's the same thing. We have, and we talked about the board about the noise from the car wash and how it would be, the car wash operates with the doors closed. And that sound would barely get to the church based on the studies we have in the car washes.
Yeah, and it's also at the rear.
64 decibels.
Yeah.
Yeah, and excuse me, I don't have the number right off the top of my head, I know what we are to the property line, but not to the church. We're 65 feet to the property line, and another 20 feet to the church, so we're over 80 feet to the church, and that decibel level was at 40 feet from the face of the closed garage, so we're more than twice that.
And the garage is always closed when the car is.
Always closed?
Yes.
This is the entering side, exiting side is the only side where the door is open while the car starts to exit.
Just when the car exits.
Okay. I think we talked fence locations on the north side. Now, there was discussion about 6-foot fences or 8-foot fences.
This would be a 6-foot fence, 6-foot vinyl fence.
8-foot wouldn't be better to.
Well, we're trying to provide a better, I think, personally, I think aesthetically, 6 would look better than the 8.
Well, again, has the church been, any discussions with the church, you know, what they're looking for?
We have a problem with
I
that,
have not.
we don't have a problem with that.
And I don't have a problem on my side with the 6-foot fence either.
6 is good.
And as we said, white vinyl, so it's.
It's okay.
It'll be maintained.
We'll maintain it. Quickly, as you know, the question came up earlier, we're headquartered in Avon, New York. We're a family-owned business. The Bruckle family are Rochester residents. So if there is an issue or a challenge that needs to be, you'll be able to get to it. It's local people. We're here, we'll be able to, you're not waiting for somebody to come in from California or something like that. It's a local company. Based on the timing of this would be our 26th location.
And you do some nice stuff.
Thank you.
This is the concept that you presented to the board, right?
That's what would be happening here.
This is exactly the building?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. With those finishes
Yes,
and
sir.
with those.
Absolutely.
So this is the building.
That is the building.
So I think if there's questions for the board, we can answer them, but I don't know that we want to continue a back and forth with items that we were happy to continue.
Concerns are.
This is the first time we're here.
Yeah.
Understood, but
Typically, you ask me to the board.
Let me explain.
It's just a protocol. So we just want to make sure.
We don't
we're
have an
stepping our boundaries.
architectural review board. We have that information. You have no confidence in us.
No. I asked the question whether this was going to be the case. There was no answer. They said these were the finishes, but this wasn't necessarily the building. I just wanted clarification, and I got that.
That's right.
Is there anybody else that have concerns about the design?
How many bays does a car wash have?
I believe it's a 2-lane car wash.
Is that all self-serve or full-serve?
So.
So it's a drive-through? What kind of car wash you putting in?
It's automatic drive-through car wash. It's automatic. You pay for the wash, then you go in, car gets washed.
Is it touchless? Is it touch-free, or is it the ones like Buckman's have?
I think it's more the touch-free. We're looking at different options right now, so I don't want to tell you something and it's something different.
Okay, that's fine, as long as you don't know, that's fine.
So regarding the impervious surfaces, they're not meeting the code? Are they getting a waiver, or how's that being?
Well, that's a good question. Okay, and I'm not gonna address that, but I'm gonna turn it over to Keith, our attorney. Okay, do they need a variance for that because it's pre-existing non-conforming and they're improving it?
No, that doesn't fly. This is a new project.
Right, so they need to meet our code.
I'm going to defer to our code enforcement officer, who is the gatekeeper.
Chris, I think I can shed some light on this. We're the developer's engineer is bound to follow the New York State Stormwater Management Design Manual. This is considered a redevelopment project in terms of stormwater management, which means it's a fully developed site. They're actually improving matters by reduction of impervious surface, increases of green space, and they do have some kind of stormwater management. None of that exists now. So they are meeting, because it's a redevelopment, they're meeting all of the requirements for the stormwater control recommended by the state.
So the SWIP overrules the...
No, it doesn't. It's a different thing. The code enforcement officer will look at the final plans and make a determination as to whether an area variance is required from the zoning board of appeals. This board cannot issue such a variance.
Very good.
It's correct.
What would be your recommendation?
I don't have a recommendation at the moment until I look at the full plan.
So from our standpoint, of course, if something's required, we'll make application for it. So if there needs to be a condition as to that being performed, we'll do that.
It's a very good conversation, and it's constructive. It answers a lot of questions to people in the audience. Powers of certain boards over others, and what's out there with New York State law. Part of the due diligence, thanks for bringing it up.
And just one last question, construction, how long is it expected to take? And
It's about 120 days from the time to start.
do you have a target opening date?
We have a target start date of midsummer. Everyone's aware of supply chain issues that are going on, so that's a target. But we probably would not start until we knew all supplies were coming, so we could keep the contractor moving and not be a start and stop. That's not good for anyone. So the road planning work really well, we start midsummer and we'll be ready.
Okay, very good. Is there anybody else that has some concerns?
This isn't a concern, but I want an answer to this gentleman's question about whether the church has been talked to about. There's four of us here representing the church, and one of them is the chairman of the board of trustees of the church. And we have no problems with it.
All right, at this time, Keith, even if they had to go to the zoning board, we wouldn't have to have another public hearing, or would we have to continue this until the zoning question might be issued? At least for 1 more month, that wouldn't hurt. I'm hearing.
Well, I'll defer to your attorney, but I hope we could be able to at least get a preliminary approval subject to the variance, and then
Well,
is that a logical
there's
path?
some concerns that have been brought up tonight that need to be looked at. And if you're willing to work with us, we might take a look at it, but I'd like to go around the rest of the table here and give you any more input that we have as far as the design, okay? And then answer some specific questions. At this time, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Or should I leave it open? Okay.
You can close the public hearing. You've heard comments.
Okay. This time I'd like to, at 5 minutes to 8, close the public hearing at Quigley's Convenience Store, knowing well that there's going to be some concerns, some additional explanations that might have to come down the pipe, but we're going to discuss them internally with our board issues, and there'll be some give and take with you people that are here for this. There'll be no more answering questions back and forth. Take things under advisement. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to close public hearing at this time. Okay, and somebody like a second. Second. Roll the votes, please, Sean.
Linda Drew?
Yes.
Steve Law?
Yes.
Chris Schleider?
Yes.
James Nesbitt?
Yes.
Mark Ellerstein?
Yes.
Steve Pittman?
Yes. Okay, to continue discussion on this quickly, okay. JP, I know you've read the letters, you heard some of the concerns of the residents. You did some explanation of zoning. Any comment as to that? And there's one other thing. There's another project that's coming before this board tonight with a neighboring property, okay, that shares a property line with this, okay. So that being said, okay, we might need to have some cooperation or coordinated review as to an entrance with the state or whatever, some determination that goes down there. Okay, with that being said, JP, the floor is yours.
Engineering issues have been largely addressed. There's no final approvals, I believe, from the DOT. They control Roosevelt Highway and Lake Road. They're state roads. So the final configuration, I think mainly on the entrance of Lake Road, is still in a bit of flux. But that's really in their final approval requirements. So traffic issues they've addressed with us, the drainage issues, they've improved the site, and reduced the amount of impervious. There's some sanitary sewer work that needs to be done to relocate the existing sanitary sewer that we're going to work out having a letter of credit posted so that it can be inspected and we can observe the construction work. Water supply is not an issue. It's under the requirements of Monroe County Water Authority in any event. So yeah, the civil engineering issues are in pretty good shape. We're just working out with the DOT stuff.
If this goes through the review process and gets approved in whatever form, where you're talking about the sanitary sewer, okay, and we're in the way to hear for at least this part of the process. We used to have control over the townhouse or the apartments and stuff like that, and I'm sure this sewer was partially located at one time to access sewer facilities to the old site. Is that true? Do you know where the laterals are?
I really have to think about that. I don't know. I don't know if I do know where that is. Wow, I don't.
Chris, we requested that they televise the sewers, so we'll be able to, they'll put a camera down the sewers and we'll locate where any laterals that served older buildings.
Okay, so the final drawing would show a record drawing that also would show some entrance points for your old property.
There's not been a problem with it in all those years.
Well, the thing is, if they relocate the sewer and they have to do a bypass, they're also gonna do a bypass, they have to bypass laterals where people are living, okay, so that they can continue to have their quality of life. So, that's it.
And we've noted it that way on the plans,
Right.
and yeah, fully plan on that.
I wanted it brought out as one of the questions. Okay, that being said, we'll do the final review on any sewer issues will be involved with JP.
Yeah, and the nice part about this construction, we're shortening it, so the existing line that kind of goes around, stay in service, we'll make the connection, test everything, open it up to see if anything else needs to be tied in, and then it'll be a very quick turnover. So bypass pumping or any temporary accommodations will be very limited for this.
Or you might have to install cleanouts of property locations.
Absolutely, yeah, because that'll be on the easement line. Yes.
Okay, very good. Keith, legal issues here, and zoning issues that you might perceive is what is allowed on the site and what isn't.
The zoning issues are really on a different track from the planning. So you could approve the plans and they wouldn't be, if they don't get their zoning permits, then they don't get to pull a building permit. And it becomes nothing more than the site plan becomes nothing more than a souvenir at that point. So if they don't get the variances, they would have to come back to this board to revise if they were so inclined.
Okay. Cheryl.
I think we discussed everything that needed to be discussed, except if we have to go to zoning for impervious surface. But they've got a good plan. Good plan, good for Hamlin.
I think what was brought up tonight, which is important, is that you're going to have to need something to that north border where the other property is. The guardrail, you mentioned boulders, something to keep that separate. I think that's important tonight, and we've already discussed it. So I would just keep that in mind.
See, mine was the same concern, making sure there was something to keep people from bypassing through from the neighboring property. The other thing is the lighting. I don't see any shielding at these are the lights, correct?
That's correct, yes. They make a house side shield attachment that attaches to the back side anywhere it's on the property line.
I deal with that.
Yeah, and we inspect that anywhere that we were adjacent to a property.
Right, yeah, because you got residential to the east and then residential to the north, so.
Yep, those will be provided.
Other than that, I think, to me, anybody who wants to operate a business or open a business, best of luck to you. If you give a great product, you'll survive. If you don't, that's on whoever opens a business. And I know you don't want the competition, but it's part of life in the world, you know what I mean? And I would hope you would both survive and do well.
To go back to the lighting issue, okay? When I looked at the photometrics, there is some marginal spill, okay? That would have an effect on the back of the church, which might like to have a little bit of additional spill in that area.
That won't bother us at all.
It won't bother you at all, okay? So that's a non-issue, okay? And up front, you've got right up by the vacuum.
Adjacent to the right-of-way area.
Yeah, well, adjacent to the back side of the apartments, okay. And you're saying a car wash in those facilities would be shut down after a certain time at night?
Yeah, we would, to 10 p.m.
And I would note, we, that side, we intentionally planted some evergreen screening there, which is not modeled in the light spill either, so we have both the house side shield as well as the row of evergreens there to help with that, so.
Dense juniper of some
Yeah,
sort?
don't anticipate that we'll have significant issue. I should have these memorized, but I don't, I apologize. Yeah, so that's a green giant western arborvitae, so they get planted at 6 to 7 feet high and they grow about a foot a year, roughly.
Okay. What size will they be upon planting?
6 to 7 feet high, so they'll come potted, this minute, yeah.
First question.
Yeah. The vacuum facilities be shut off at 10 p.m. also?
We could do that, yes.
Yeah, because they're on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would ask that be a stipulation.
Okay, Jim?
Okay, something brand new we should have discussed 3 months ago, so we'll make it real quick. The future of our country, it looks like we're going to electric automobiles. If you have electric service, how are you gonna provide that in the future? Like Ford Motor Company's going on electric and stuff. How would you provide?
Typically, we'll run the wiring now, and we could dedicate a couple spots to electric cars. And then they have the wiring already for the spots, and then just continue.
Okay, the couple of spots.
I can put them up by the front of the couple electric spots here. Dedicate that, run the electric now, and we'll see how the future goes.
But what I'm getting at is you wouldn't build a building.
No.
Or anything like that should be on the plan.
No.
Yeah.
Correct. Typically, folks are, well, at least the way the infrastructure is now, most of those charging are at destination points, meaning at the malls, at the grocery stores, because you're gonna spend an hour or 2 hours there. Not to say you won't need to stop in an emergency, when you get low and fill it up. But, or, well, plug it in, I should say, not fill it up. But, you know, it's not, this isn't a destination where folks are gonna go hang out for a couple hours and charge their car while they're there. So, I don't think we can predict the future, but we don't anticipate
You can plan for it a little
a huge
bit, but
demand.
no
Yeah.
buildings will change.
Okay, yeah, I just did,
It's a fair
I was saying,
question.
well, we're gonna build 20 by 20.
A lot of times somebody might come in and want a 10-minute rapid charge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and those.
Come off the parkway, or they're down at our park, whatever. And looking at a revitalization program, we're asking the state to also consider something like that, you know, in parks. So,
Yeah, you're
salmon are running.
You're starting to see them quite often. They're the pole type hookups with two on each side, and like Lou said, we can add a couple of those near the front and wire and have the conduit there to pull it if it's a demand that we see.
And then the only other thing I had is, if you make a note, I'm sure the state's gonna give you a spec on a culvert pipe out on 18.
Yes.
But the one that's in there tonight is not big enough.
It's about that much clearer than at the last time we were out there, so.
Just be aware of that.
Yeah, so we're working with the state on that drainage along there. I anticipate that their final configuration is gonna be similar to along 19, where we do an inverted apron instead of a pipe, just because of how shallow the cover is through there, where it just runs across the asphalt, but we're working through that detail with them right now. That'll be part of the permit package that they sign off on. Yes.
and you'll be detaining some of the water anyways that comes across your site.
From our site.
On your site also.
Correct.
So, Mark.
Can you answer questions about the proposed mini storage building on 2865 Roosevelt Island? It's on the agenda. Is that related to you at all?
It's not related to us at all.
Not related to them, okay. Is it same?
First we've heard.
First we've heard.
Okay.
You might want to stick
Same name.
We have.
It's adjacent to your facility, so.
This is the first we've heard that, everyone. So, stick around.
First we've heard it.
Other than that, I have no comments.
I'm just curious about something. On this car wash, does it, recycling in the water?
Recycled water.
It just, no, I don't, I believe it just goes out the standard, sanitary.
We don't know the answer to that, but we can include any info in the building permit package that we bring in there. Yeah.
I'll make sure that gets answered.
So if I could, I think that we heard a couple of addressable site plan comments. We would understand it, and if the board will consider approvals, I think the comments that we received are relatively minimal from a site plan perspective, being some kind of a buffer or barrier on the north side, whether that's a timber guide rail or boulders, something that wouldn't necessarily preclude what we're trying to do there and maintain visibility and that kind of thing, but keep folks from driving back and forth. That's absolutely something that we can add to the plans that come in for signature. There were some questions about security. I think Lou answered those, but if there's any other questions, I'm sure we can. Condition on the state DOT, again, they've approved the number and location of the entrances. We just got to work through the final permit details once we get a contractor on board. And then I think the final condition or comment question, if you will, would be, there was two. The vacuums added to the car wash off at 10 p.m. And then relative to whether or not there's a variance necessary for lot coverage, which of course, as your attorney mentioned, if we're not successful in getting it, if the board approves us with a condition, we either would have to give up what we've done or come back with a significant enough modification to either comply with the zoning or obtain the variance through another means of mitigation. So I think we're comfortable with all of those conditions, moving those forward if the board is willing to do so.
Yeah, Matt, the one other issue is whether we resolve that fence on the north side of the church.
Oh, and it sounds like there's some church representatives here, so we're happy to resolve that right now if we need to. I don't know, is there a concern relative to the snow plowing if the fence, the way we're showing it, stays?
Yes.
Okay, so would you prefer us to just take the fence out and just leave the trees through that area off your parking lot?
I think so, yeah.
that would improve sight, that we can see better, and also if a little snow gets pushed up against there, it's not gonna go against your fence and break the fence.
We can do that, that's easy.
So if the board's open to that, we have no problem with that.
So that would be just on that north property line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Church is north, or south
Correct.
property line bordering the church's parking lot. Yeah, thanks, Jiffy. Yeah, we have no issue with that.
Motion? Well, I'm gonna ask you one question, as usual. If you were to they can receive a seeker determination tonight as well as a preliminary?
Seeker goes before anything else.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but that could be done tonight if need be, if the board wants to do it that way because of the problems with the notification, okay? And, you know, the fact that not everybody had a chance to pay attention to town newsletters and stuff like that, but, so we could, maybe have a comfort level at next month's meeting to see that the things discussed here tonight were actually broached and approved. And it also give you time to get the zoning, so, I mean, that's meeting just about everybody's concerns, that brought up tonight. What is the board? Steve?
I think we do whatever we can to after that.
Mark?
Well, it seems like we followed our due diligence and did what we were supposed to do, it just didn't work out for some reason, but went beyond and above to try to get the word out. I haven't heard a lot of discussion in not approving or not liking the project, so I'm not sure I feel a need to delay, but up for discussion.
I think the only reason to delay is until we hear from the state on the road condition.
Yeah.
So that should be like a conditional approval. You don't know what the state's gonna give you.
Well, we do, again, because we have had the correspondence, the town actually has a letter relative to the number of entrances and the location that the state's in favor. So the only question really is if it's 40 feet wide or 32 feet wide with a different radius on it. So from a site plan perspective, that doesn't materially change the plan or anything that the board would be approving. It just would be a condition we have to satisfy that prior to.
Right, I personally have no problem, I would have no problem with seeker and preliminary. Right, seeker's not gonna change, you know, between now and the next meeting. I don't see why we wouldn't approve seeker and preliminary tonight and make it based on DOT approval and any zoning issue they would have.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I'd like to see it approved tonight with the conditions.
One question, Chris. We're doing a lot combination at the same time. We should vote on the lot combination first. Because we're doing it as a whole picture and it's not whole yet.
I would do it as a package. I don't see the point.
Okay.
Yeah. The lot combination is really not a big concern unless there's something out there that I haven't heard about. We could do that, but that always follows seeker. As far as site plan is concerned, if you want to give preliminary, that's great. Just be sure that all your conditions are set out. Otherwise, when final comes, you're not allowed to shovel some more on, unless something from their revisions of the plan reveals a problem.
Someone like to make a motion?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that we consider the application of, I'm doing it. The application of PEMM LLC, owner Denali Excelsior LLC, for commercial preliminary site plan approval at 1722 Lake Road, be considered a unlisted action for the purposes of conducting an uncoordinated review under seeker. And that upon the record before the board, the planning board makes a finding that this will have no significant environmental impact and adopts a negative declaration.
Second. Call
Linda Drew.
Yes.
Steve Law.
Yes.
Chris Schleider.
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Mark Fellerstein.
Yes.
Steve Pittman.
Yes.
Entertain a motion for preliminary approval with conditions.
Before you get to that, if I may, some concern had been expressed about the adjoining site. Are these tied at the hip or not?
I'm gonna ask them to stick around.
I don't know what that means.
Well, they might wanna know that there's an adjacent site that's gonna share a point of access, 20-some feet.
Which is fine. We welcome them to stop by all of our public hearings. But once you do the preliminary approval, unless you make some relationship to that other site part of the approval, then that ship has sailed.
We can even site specific, I guess.
I'm curious, why would the one have anything to do with the other?
I believe the statement that had been made was that the access points are right next to each other, or darn close to
You
each
can't
other.
really tell from the drawings that we received whether or not there is an access onto Roosevelt. It looks like it's all on the Lake Road.
Yeah, that's what I thought,
I
down
don't
on
know
top.
who's representing them, I don't know.
There's an easement that's
There's an easement.
been run along there for ages
Yes, it has.
that crosses over where their fence line is or their easterly property.
The developers are always professional.
Right. So the question is does that easement need to continue for this proposal of the mini storage and that access up to Roosevelt Highway?
Yeah, you're gonna stick around.
Yeah, and we can definitely stick around. I think our proposal needs to stand on its own, not necessarily be constrained by.
Make sure that we came first, not the chicken or the egg, so.
Well, it'll be a preliminary approval, so if we have to deal with something, we can. All right, I'd like to make a motion that the application of PEMM LLC owners, Denali Accessory LLC, for commercial preliminary site plan approval, which also includes the lot combinations, which I mentioned later on, for the two properties at 1722 to 1730 Lake Road into one parcel and construct a new convenience store with a gas canopy, car wash, and vacuum stations. This is in the CGD zoning district, tax account number 021.03-3-2.1 and 021.03-3-28 with the following conditions. That we have final approval from New York State DOT for access. That the fence along the church parking lot south of the property be omitted. That the central, that the control vehicle access along the north line to the property north. And that the vacuum operation stop at 10 p.m. at night.
Question. He included the lot coverage or the lot combination key. Should that be a total separate seeker and because it's a different application?
Seeker applies to everything, all the permits.
Okay.
Now, you could choose to vote on them separately if you like, but lot combination seems to be something of a slam dunk, so.
Okay. All right, I just want to make sure legal, you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
I'll second.
Linda Drew.
Yes.
Steve Law.
Yes.
Chris Schleider.
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Mark Fellerstein.
Yes.
Steve Pittman.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Do we want to, are we running out of time, Cheryl?
No, we're not.
You're good.
Let's, do we need to set a date for them? Or they'll be back next month for final?
No, if there's no public hearing or notifications, what we'll do is we'll work with Cheryl to find out when she needs to have info back to make sure it gets to the board without changes and coordinate that. But we'll plan on being back next month.
Yes.
find out the answer relative to the zoning.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Clarify, we did a seeker, but do we have to do a separate motion for the lot combination because it's a separate item on the agenda?
No, I think you can vote on those as a package.
Okay. Yep, I know.
All right.
So good?
Yeah,
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Don't forget to take your stuff.
You better stick around.
I'll be around, yes, thank you.
If anybody wants to stick around for the remainder, there's another site adjacent to this, as well as some individual conservation board, conservation boards, so we need to go through. So, it's kind of a long meeting tonight, I understand, but, the next item on the agenda would be for 5732 West Potomac Beach Road, John McKeon, for a conservation corridor development permit. We skipped, Penn was two different places, so.
One had them like back and everything had them separate.
We combined the three, seven together, basically, number 4 right. So, John, you're putting in a generator for health and safety.
I'm going to, yes.
100 feet of Lake Ontario. Janine, this is something we've seen before? Or
Yes, there's no issues.
consistent? Cheryl, at West Potomac Beach, location of the proposed generator and elevation will be as we've done in the past, I
As
believe?
we've done in the past, yes. It's even farther away from the lake on other, applications we've had. And it's going to be a minimum, 12 to 18 inches high off the ground for floodplain regulations. And it is a health and safety issue for this application.
Very good. We're gonna need a seeker on this.
That too.
And, the resolution.
I'll make a motion for the seeker for the application of John McCann, owner John McCann, seeking conservation corridor development permit for salt generator within 100 feet of Lake Ontario. Tax account number 008.16-1-2 as a type 2 action and has no negative impact on the
Linda Rue? Yes. Steve Locke?
Yes.
Chris Slater?
Yes.
Mark Ballerstein?
Yes.
James Nesbitt?
Yes.
Steve Pittman?
Very good.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the application of conservation corridor development permit for John McCann, owner John McCann, seeking conservation corridor development permit to install a generator within 100 feet of Lake Ontario. Tax account number 008.16-1-2. This is in an SR zoning district, CHA and floodplain. Letter of intent, conservation corridor development permit, instrument survey, and aerial photo have been supplied.
Second.
Linda Rue?
Yes.
Steve Locke?
Yes.
Chris Slater?
Yes.
Mark Ballerstein?
Yes.
James Nesbitt?
Yes.
Steve Pittman?
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Good. That's the quickest we've ever done with it.
If we could, I'd like to move 5700 West Potomac Beach up. It's another conservation corridor permit for a generator for John and Mary Testa. And let's go.
I'm their representative. My name is Terry Smith and I'm with Integrated Power Supplies. We are the Generac contractor installing the generator for them. They are out of town right now, so that's why I'm here.
Very good. They've made application, Janine, and once again, this is consistent.
It's consistent with the LWRP.
Sure, elevation and placement
Yes.
permitted in this configuration.
It's it's about the same as the other gym. It'll be
Just a little
12 and
closer,
18.
a little closer though, right?
Yeah, it is a little closer, yes, it is, but on the back of the house, in
How much room?
quick, I can't even think of proximity, there are a couple air conditioners and another electrical appliance, and this actually will be, out farther from the house than those are, but only a small amount.
Very good, let's make this one as easy as the last one. Seeker and.
I'll make a motion for the seeker for John and Mary Testa, 5700 West Wapoma Beach Road. Seeks conservation corridor development permit to install a generator in the front waterside yard within 292 feet. Lake Ontario, tax account number 008.16-1-9 as a type 2, with no negative impact on the town.
I'll second it.
Linda Drew,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yes.
Chris Schleider,
Yes.
Mark Bellerstein,
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Steve Hittner.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the conservation corridor development permit for John and Mary Testa, 5700 West Wapoma Beach Road, to install a generator in the front waterside yard within 22 feet of Lake Ontario. This is an SR zoning district, tax account number 008.16-1-9. Following documents have been submitted for review: letter of intent, conservation corridor development permit, instrument survey, and aerial photos.
Linda Drew,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yes.
Chris Schleider,
Yes.
Mark Bellerstein.
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Steve Hittner.
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, as we put change chairs here, I guess, overview of the agenda. Denali Excelsior, 2865 Roosevelt Highway. Mr. Myers.
Good evening. Before you tonight is what we have is a concept plan of what would the goal for exercising this property, which is put some mini storage on that building or on that property underneath it. The map that you have is just an illustration of utilizing the 50-foot buffer. And what we're trying to do is get the temperature of the board to see if this is a viable project for my client, so we can spend some real money to get it site engineered.
We'll skip the planning aspects, if you will. Sure. Could somebody open the door to the hallway, please? Thanks, Chris. The previous application we had on LLC was also on a portion of the property.
Yeah, it's a two-lot subdivision currently. It's the Times Square subdivision. This is lot 2. This is each of the main property. It's encumbered by some wetlands.
There's an easement, well, there always has been somewhat of an easement up on the north-south line of that. Is that a 30-foot wide easement?
Probably like a 55-foot wide easement.
That going down farther.
What are we talking about? Is it the
Out at Roosevelt Highway, it's 30 foot, right?
Well, they have 30-foot frontage on Roosevelt Highway, that's correct.
But it's calling out a 70-foot wide ingress egress.
Right.
Okay, but over on this other, the proposed access is gonna be on Lake Road?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out. I mean, ideally, we probably would use both entrances if at all possible, but if it's gonna come off the Lake Road and that's the way it's gotta go, we can work with that.
Well, it'd be on the state, I guess, that would have a little control over one or two accesses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there might be some fire issues too, I don't know. But I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the only utility service in it is gonna be electric anyway, so.
Where would you bring the utilities in on this project?
If it's gonna be overhead, then probably the closest pole, either be on Roosevelt Highway or on Lake Road, whichever we wanna do.
So there was not gonna be any office on site which you would have need for facilities?
No, right?
No caretaker, whatever, time lock on a gate or something like that is what you'd be using?
Right. trying to keep it small.
What do we do with a gated storage facility like that in the fire department?
Well, they're not proposing to gate it at all, Chris. Yeah, it's gonna stay open, got the 50-foot buffer, wants to make sure people can get in and out of there. Obviously, you know, they're gonna have to have insurance for themselves, albeit for fire or theft or whatever. But I think that comes with the price of running a storage unit anyways, not that I know a lot about them, but.
There are cameras and lighting and such.
I don't know about the camera aspects, but it'll definitely have some probably lighting, it's gonna have power.
Now, in the drawing that we were given, the lines for the 30-foot going on Road 19 are a different color. Do you own that property?
He does own that property, I don't know why they're different color. That's part of a resub that they've done on that lot. Because, Jim, this lot used to be wider.
Yeah.
And we took 30 foot off of it, so that map has been since we put a new file.
Okay.
If that's coming from the county GIS website, they are like a year behind, if not more. I mean, I've looked on it, recently have maps that are even updated from 3 years ago.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Just a little confusing. And how the one on the Roosevelt on 18, that was a problem that we all had doing our homework, is how that's gonna line up with the potential for the new service station.
Well, I didn't, you know, all that was going on until tonight, so.
Because,
it'd be nice to get together with them and find out what their plans are.
now that we've approved it, they gotta put their fence up, so you would have a 6-foot high fence down the middle of your road.
Oh, boy.
Well, in the meantime, their engineering representative is here.
Sure.
Okay, I would you'd have some conversation with him. It's not
Yeah, we'll trade cards.
it's not a killing thing or anything.
No, Lou mentioned to me that that had been brought up in part of the agreement. I believe there's a common owner or some common ownership between that parcel and who he's buying it from. And they had indicated that originally that they didn't need to utilize that area for access, but plans may have changed, so we absolutely will have a conversation with him on that.
And it might be a moot point.
Right. But I don't wanna leave it out there. Or
Sure.
You're
No, it's gonna be
looking
addressed.
at 7 buildings, 40 foot by 100 foot, so you got 40 customers for each building.
I guess they work out to be like 10 by 20 as the units, I think, I don't know.
Yeah, 10 by 20, that's, so they're 100 foot long, there's 10 units.
There you go, yeah.
And front and back is 40 foot, so, yeah, so you know how many customers. And it's just gonna add more traffic to the convenience store entrance and access.
It'd have to be a separate entrance.
You know, if it have to be separate, you know, the state's probably not gonna approve two side by side.
No, that's for sure.
You know? And
That's why he's got.
because there'd be a fence in the middle,
Sure.
which is really tough on the grill. But yeah,
Something like that.
and we've said this 100 times, this is the first we've seen of this. Okay, and that's how that works. You know, and because we haven't had a public hearing or we haven't had anything, so there hasn't been a notice that something's coming in your neighborhood.
It typically takes 3 meetings sometimes to get through on a project. The owners are Chris Wilcox. The driveway that comes out on Lake Road, is there already an easement for that? Or is it a piece of property?
It is attached to the property.
It is attached to the property.
Does not have a curb cut currently.
Okay, I know. Question was brought up to me earlier, so I just wanted to clear it up in front of the audience. Thank you. Cheryl, this allowed by zoning in this area. JP, you have any comments that
Yeah, just,
help this along?
you've touched on several of them, so forgive me if I repeat them, some things you've already brought up, but eventually, you know, we'll need to see the entire grading plan and stormwater management, how that would pan out. We're gonna wanna look at discussion of fencing or buffers at the adjacent, especially the residential areas. Access control and security you talked about a little bit. Site lighting and a lighting plan with the photometrics. We talked about working out if there has to be any combination or dealing with the Quickly's entrance and somehow whether the state would want those combined in some fashion. Again, both these would be under the control of the DOT on what they're going to allow and how they're going to allow the entrances. You noted there's no office, no water, no sanitary sewer demands.
Even though there is a main that runs through the property, he's not looking to put any of that in there.
Right. And you're showing a proposed gravel driveway. I know at least in the state road connection for a commercial drive, it's going to have to be paved. Whether
Whole
this,
site or just up to?
well, that's a question. I think the town's code says commercial endeavors are supposed to be paved with a hard surface. We have relaxed that in light of reduction of storm, impervious surface and the type of access. We've had overflow parking and for, sort of quasi, well, for example, the seasonal use like at the Marina. It's not going to be utilized in the winter when it's icy and snowy. So there's things to discuss about the paving issues.
Okay.
Yeah, just it needs to be engineered out, but those are just things.
Well, that'll be our next step, is getting one on board.
The big thing on these self-storage facilities tends to be buffering relative to homeowners. And that usually means some combination of fencing or landscaping. The aerial view, which I assume was what from GIS, does show some site vegetation. I don't know how dense that is, if it constitutes a brush row or just scrub that's going to disappear.
There's some mature trees out there, and I think on my plan I showed a 50-foot buffer right off the get-go anyways. That's how we came up with the number of buildings that we came up with, because I wanted to make sure you had 50 foot on the north and the south, and then see a little bit more on the west side where there's residential homes.
So a landscaping plan, that's all.
Okay.
What's the required buffer to the wetland? Is there any?
It's a federal wetland, so we can go right up to the edge, but I didn't want to do that either, so.
Okay.
That is not to be disturbed, we don't want to approach on that.
Questions from the board?
I just had a thought for the other gentleman there from the convenience store. If you didn't get allowed the access on Roosevelt, or didn't need the second access on Roosevelt, same company owns both lots, right? It's the same name, the applying that was for the Denali Excelsior,
Are you directly related to the?
Yeah, I own both lots right now.
And it's not supposed to have it?
No,
It's all
not
Denali.
Quickly's is.
And then the owner, and then the applicant is Penn.
So the applicant's not different applicant for this?
So Quickly's will be purchasing.
They're gonna have two separate owners in the future.
Well, my thought was if they didn't get the access for your extra percentage of green space, would be to steal that or to get that asphalt section, put your fence farther and get your extra 6% out of that asphalt entranceway if they weren't allowed it off of Roosevelt Highway.
So we've done many self-storage projects, and our experience is the traffic is usually a couple of vehicles a day.
Right.
Just because once everybody loads their stuff in, they just don't go that too hard.
Well, that's what I'm saying, they don't have to put the two entrances, there's gonna be a hunk of paving, an easement, a hunk of paving that makes no sense. You might, if the same owner, you might be able to utilize that for your extra green space.
Well, we can explore that, I mean,
Yeah. Just a
like
thought.
tonight's just like, it's just a workshop, it's just we just wanted to see if this is.
There would be a lot line adjustment to take
If he
over a
can
little piece of
spend some decent money, he's gonna have some bang for the buck, that's what he's trying to find out, if there's gonna be any major hurdles, and it doesn't sound like it, so.
Yeah, you're
We
doing
can
all
take the next
gravel.
step.
You're doing all gravel, so your impervious surface is
Well,
only
that's,
by the building.
that's still a question with the town engineer, whether it's gonna be all gravel or not.
Does the whole thing have to be paved, or
Just the
just
drive.
the entrance?
Usually just the entrance
That's what I thought, yeah.
Okay.
on it, but isn't it, I think, if memory serves, your code for commercial developments require a paved surface. And as I say, I think we've relaxed that given certain
Yeah, I'm not,
certain uses.
I'm not familiar with the code here, but does the town of Hamlin require a certain percentage of permeable?
You generally,
Zoning district, yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it's usually listed the other way. It's a maximum of impervious.
Yeah, the maximum impact, yeah.
Same idea.
But see, like, where they're also required a certain percentage of all paving now to be permeable.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that here. But often it would come in the stormwater design that in order to meet certain treatment criteria that
Might have to.
portions of it could be permeable. Yeah.
Sounds favorable?
Well, there's enough information here, that's why I wanted everybody to
Sure.
Can I make a
spend
comment?
some time.
Any maps, because of the wetland on the property, should show the conservation overlay boundary.
On the federal wetland map, there should be an overlay boundary, but there's what's allowed within that overlay.
Well, you can do things within the overlay, but the overlay boundary line should show on any map.
Okay.
I'll find it. Yeah, sure.
Okay, very good. If there's nothing else, when you coming back?
Well, as soon as we can get somebody to get out there and so forth.
Okay, well, let Cheryl know when you want an invitation, we'll invite you back.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thanks.
guys.
Thanks for being so patient.
Sure.
Okay.
One more.
Okay, Mr. Jonathan Ross.
Yes, sir.
How is John?
Good, how are you?
Very good. Thought you had your business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the old eyesight's wearing down.
Okay. So, talk to us.
Well, you know, I'm a fisherman. We built a 18 by 30 building, and the back of my property goes up to 18. I want to do a seasonal tackle shop. I paint spoons and all that kind of fishing spoons and sell them, and I want to sell them seasonal. Add some other tackle in there, primarily like Great Lakes tackle, stuff that pertains to the lake fishing. That's the only guys fish with.
We have a drawings in the back, because there's no instrument survey available for that property. He tried to look for one at his home in his files and did not have one, so that's why we thought we'd try to use the topometry photo, and he went out and he measured the whole back of his property for setbacks. So that's what we have available.
You were out to it. She was out to inspect the building permit and the electrical permit.
So this has been built?
Yes. Yeah, that's a dated aerial photo that I got here at the town.
Yeah, this is the newest one we could get.
Yes, and I appreciate that.
When I drove out there, Jan, I couldn't see the building until I went around the corner, and I'm going, is that the building? Or is that tree gonna fall on it in this wind?
My 2 trees went down yesterday. We were cutting all day today.
You
My
must
back
have
was
just
killing me right now.
You must have just missed it.
You must have just missed it. The willow tree's got an 80-foot one on the lawn. My side yard, my box elder, big branch, now it's shot.
Well, you're not the only one.
No, I know.
Oh, it's 4 if you need any more.
Yeah.
John, just where is this? The address that I've got is 20 Welch Avenue, Holly, New York.
Yes, so I am the last house in Hamlin on 18. There's a bend that goes right there. Last house on the left side, I got a pergola and I put a deck in. I bought the house like 10 years ago. It was a foreclosure. And
you know, we fixed the property up, made it a mortgageable property. That's what I did with it.
You know the cut-through road?
It's, there's, I'm sorry, I call it the Bermuda Triangle. There's Kendall Mills Road cuts off over the county line. Off that, a lot of people don't know because they fly down that road. There's another road off that's Welch Ave. And I'm at the dead end of that road.
The dead end.
And then the house backs up to Route 18. So if you're driving down it and that Kendall Mills cuts off, you go up to second house. That's my house there. You big wide open there with a big willow tree.
So I had the right spot. The question I have then is, your driveway?
My driveway, I have a driveway that comes up Welch Ave, comes up towards my garage, it turns right and it goes out 18.
It goes out 18?
18.
Yeah, okay. I looked at the right place then.
Is that a permitted drive onto 18? That's
You know, when I went to closing, on it, they said something about right of way or something like that. And then I talked to my neighbor and he had bought like a parcel in between us or something, and it's on my property. I bought it like that 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and nobody's ever gave me a problem about it. So as far as DOT or anything like that, I never investigated it. I literally just maintain it, and that's that.
Okay. But you built a new driveway going to this new pole barn.
The pole barn had a retaining ditch or a driveway into it with a 10-inch pipe under it, but it hadn't been maintained, and I guess the house sat vacant for 4 years. So, and my neighbor said the lawn had reseeded itself 50 or 60 times and it had grown in. So there was a gravel driveway in there. We just dug it out because it was just, and put asphalt millings in it and made it level to the building.
My only concern is if this is gonna be a somewhat commercial use, that driveway should be a state-approved driveway, shouldn't it? Should be.
I mean, I guess you gotta step back and say,
It's on a curve.
first of all, is this an allowable use here? That's for a special use permit.
Yeah.
I didn't read through your code. You know, I think the verbiage is normally, or the customary home occupation.
Home occupation, customary home occupation, if I may just to add to that. There are basically two types of home occupation classifications that are permitted in the town. One is professional offices, lawyers, accountants, that kind of stuff. That's usually fairly straightforward. But there's a second class, and I listed it in my letter to you, music studios, dressmaking, teaching, private lessons, babysitting, telemarketing apparently, beauty shops. If you find that this proposed use is similar to one of those on the list, then you can make a finding to that effect, and then it would be permitted. But if you don't see it as being similar enough, then it's not.
That's what we're using to see if the board will see if it's similar enough to those.
Yes,
Sorry
Jay?
for stepping
Nope,
on
that's,
I didn't get your letter.
It went out late today, my apologies.
Oh, yeah.
But
Let's see if I can find
that.
It's okay, Keith.
See, I'm stumbling with the driveway on the curve on the Roosevelt. If made people come in from the dead end road. I just, you know, if you have an accident there because somebody came in and bought a fishing lure, that's a terrible thing, you know, and if it's, yeah, and, you know, so I kind of stumbling with.
The driveway from the turn is 16th mile. I have crazy people drive by my house 70, 80 miles an hour here and there. I can't say who's gonna trip, fall at this time. Somebody does something weird, you know. That's what it is. It's like 16th mile. You know, like there's a trailer park on the right. I'm on this side of the trailer park, so the trailer park is actually west of me. And then there's, after the trailer park, there's another house on the corner. That's actually where the bend is. So I'm like this side of the trailer park, on the opposite side of the road.
I mean, if nothing else, we would want to see like turnaround so cars aren't backing up pulling it straight and backing back out onto Roosevelt.
Yeah, I have enough, there's plenty enough room to turn around too.
Could you describe those uses that are contemplated again?
Sure. The ones relevant here, the list that the code gives is art or music studio, dressmaking, teaching private lessons, babysitting, beauty shops, and telephone answering services and business conducted entirely over the telephone.
A couple of years ago, we approved Peter Toner, he's selling chickens in his front yard.
I think we had a gun shop in town.
And we approved an archery shop.
Yeah, archery shop.
Which was in the home, inside the basement, using his own driveway.
Right.
Off a dead end.
Right.
I think with the amount, especially with the out of town fishermen coming in, I don't see anything, I'm not a fisherman, but I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's good family recreation and everything else. The problem I have is Road 18, because that's a pretty tight curve. And so I think we either got to specify, you got to have a turnaround so the people can drive out, or come down the dead end road. DOT indicate it's okay. Yeah, and I think the state's got to give you permission to have that driveway to a state road.
What would your name?
My driveway that's been there forever?
No, the one that goes to the pole barn.
Okay, we could take that one out of play and use just the one that's been there forever and.
Welch Ave would be fine.
Yeah, which is my driveway that I've
That's
had all
okay.
along.
Yeah, then that'd be fine.
I would stay with that because I have a camper that I would pull over there anyways.
If you can,
keep that stuff out of my
if you can get all
driveway.
your customers, go down that dead end road.
Yeah.
And then,
Right.
and then you're golden.
Yeah, I built an addition on that was permitted a few years ago to dedicate, it's a little 400 square footer on the back of the building, and that's where I have an air system, I airbrush and paint all these cool swims up and use all these cool powders, and, you know, that's what I've been doing. So I have like friends and stuff that are always coming over, other captains that I know I'm captain too, and they pick this stuff up and buy it, and I sell it online. So now I'm at the age where like, I don't want to be on this lake as a working captain for the rest of my life. So I want to have a little bit of a tackle shop set up, seasonal. I got 2 kids, I'm kind of showing them the business thing. The whole deal, I've been showing them from digging the holes in the ground with the post, building this building up, roofing it, business aspect, full ground start, you know? Just trying to start them off like that, taking them that route.
I think you have to use your original driveway. I was even unaware, even walking back there as much as I have, that there was like some kind of an entrance off 18.
I think you pulled in there, didn't you?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I
Okay.
can't- I
Oh, you
didn't.
walked around then?
Yeah, walked
Oh,
around.
sure.
Yeah.
It was somebody else then, they pulled
Okay.
in there and turned
Well,
around.
Here's a more
barn was just
recent, this is 18, this is the pole barn, this is where it comes in off of Kendall Mills.
Yeah, he just built that.
So you're doing most of your work in line, selling it, but you're
Right.
building everything
Yeah,
and
'cause I
stuff
just
in
looked
this,
down here.
in this barn that you have.
Yeah, I bought Finger Lakes Tackle. I bought his company took a dive like a few years ago. We bought it. We've been painting spoons, keeping them going, keeping the company alive, and changing the name to Hawks Custom Tackle. Been selling online. So
They work?
you like catch fish?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I got one other question.
What counts?
Does Rob use
So
them?
that really isn't on the curve.
Oh, okay.
The curve
They're
is
working.
here.
You won't like what Rob uses. Yeah. Trust me, I know you probably don't like
This is
that.
where Roosevelt goes west,
Yeah, I
and
know.
makes the turn.
But anyways,
It's kind of right in the middle of the
Yeah.
two
anybody want
curves.
to, we're at a point where we can set a date for a public hearing for this, folks. You ready for your neighbors and everybody?
My neighbors already know what I'm doing.
Already, when Kendall Mills rose, you're looking over your shoulder
Maybe
to
probably
pull
one neighbor
out.
like diagonal to me, I don't really know him that well. He's in
That
fishing,
town,
you know, ran that way,
bordering
maybe
Kendall
trouble
Mills,
once in a
it's
while.
just,
That's about it.
Still running that big sport?
Yeah.
you never know who's coming around the corner.
Yeah.
The gas hog, gas prices,
Snow.
I'm gonna try to run it.
They use a rowboat.
It's just blind.
Electric motor.
Yeah.
Charging station will be done at the
Yeah.
new building. Yeah, you want to set a date?
Sure, for a special use permit for Jonathan Roth applicant seeking a special use permit to operate a fishing tackle business located at 20 Welch Avenue, Holly, New York. That we set a public hearing for April 4th at 7 p.m.
Second?
Linda Giroux?
Yes.
Steve Law?
Yes.
Chris Schleider?
Yes.
Mark Bellerstein?
Yes.
James Nesbitt?
Yes.
And Steve Hitter?
Yep.
Okay.
See you next month. All right, Jan, good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Good seeing you then.
Cheryl, do I need you to pay for it?
We need to pay for a public hearing.
Public hearing, that's what I
Public
read.
hearing fee,
Do I
and
come
we
see
can
you
do
for
that later on this week or first of next week.
Okay, yep, okay.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you.
Good night.
What's going on with the town board? We done with a regular agenda?
Well, we just passed the property tax exemption for the volunteer firefighters at the last meeting. The farmland protection grant application has been submitted to the state ag and markets. The end of the month, we'll be voting on a new assessor, and soon we'll be advertising for, our fire marshal's gonna resign the end of May, so we'll be putting an ad in the paper for advertising for a new fire marshal. And our next meeting, there's a public hearing at 6:30 for a cell tower on Moscow Road, which was approved, I think, in 2015, from what I understand.
We're on Moscow.
On the corner of East Fork and Moscow.
I'll have to add an antenna to it. Maybe I could get TV stations too.
Yeah, it's free cable.
Yeah, right. So, is there any drawings on that available?
I get some in the office. If you'd like to see them, if anyone wants to see them.
Well, I just thought maybe the planning board should, if they need to, have any discussion or come to the meeting and
I don't know that
bless it or whatever we
Yeah, I
have
don't
to
think
do.
it doesn't come to the planning board at all.
I know that,
Yeah,
but
but you
the
want to,
planning
you guys
board-
are interested in seeing it?
I realize that, but the
Oh.
planning board would probably like to see things that are gonna be done in the town of Hamlin, even though the approving
Okay.
portion is with the town board.
I will scan
Okay.
and put it in the email
That'd be
tomorrow.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not that we need something else to.
And there's two parcels of Moscow Road. There's two parcels of 100 Moscow Road, and they're separated by Moscow Road. So it's on the southerly lot where the tower's going to go.
Could be Nick Brslowski's.
No, Eugene
That'd be
Dollars.
Gene Dollars.
Gene Valley, probably behind the house on the curb.
Just put one up on the Cook Road, couple cities.
Steve?
I have a question,
158.
something that happened earlier.
What's that?
The mailing of notices for people.
Yeah.
It seems that this has been, it's happened before,
It has happened before.
and it's not your fault.
No, I know that.
But I'm wondering if, because it's such a sensitive issue, why can't we, and there's so few letters that go out, why can't we mail them direct, instead of going to the company that screws them up?
We already have a contract with a company that takes all our outgoing mail. That's all I can say about it. We have
It is approved at the beginning of every year, I believe, contracts,
Yeah,
every
it is.
fiscal year.
Mhm.
Believe me, it's something I'm gonna be looking
Mhm.
into.
Mhm.
I
I can
can't run meetings and end up being contentious like this. Okay? I don't mind being something I cause.
And it's happened before to Keith and to JP, but they haven't gotten their boxes.
Yeah.
I've had to make up a new one, and I would drop it off at your house and let JP know. Yeah.
And when you take the amount of time you have to pay her wage and everything else just because she wants to make sure that the due diligence is out there, and then I guess it's a little personal for me when I get accused on a Saturday morning by a gentleman of us fast tracking a job, not letting people know, okay, and having to spend an hour on the phone with a bunch of arrogance.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't need it, neither do these people. It's
No,
a
it'll
waste of
definitely
time.
be,
Okay.
it'll be brought up for sure. We'll be discussing that, what we can do
I think town code reads, only gotta give notices 500 foot. 500 foot from property line. There was enough people in here unless they all live in a condo.
Well, you know, I was pleased to see these people, because Friday when I found this out, that a few people hadn't received them, I went in, I talked to the town attorney, talked to Steve, and they told me did not have to go out, but I went out door to door on Friday to each individual house and dropped off a new notice, because that's what I. That's what they both said, but I did do that, and that's why we had.
With this one gentleman that was here tonight, we've had history with him before. Okay, he works for the DOT, told me how to do my job, told me Steve wasn't doing his job. After we talked to Steve on Friday. Okay.
Chris, I have one question. There's a lady who brought up the fact that she has a car wash already. But when the people come before us, if somebody comes in with a proposition and everything is done according to the laws and the zoning and all of that, we can't really turn it down, can we? I mean, it's not for us to judge how many pizza shops we have, or how many hairdressers we have, or how many gas stations we have, right?
That's
I mean, that's not.
Correct. I'm just gonna say.
Might be coming this way.
Yeah, right, you never know, when you see the parachutes, get the rifles out. You're absolutely right, people in New York State, not in my backyard, and that's basically what this is, okay, or my front yard, is not a legal means of trying to stop a project, okay? To have a competitor know about it, if I was a business person in any municipality, you'd be part of an organization that keeps an eye on businesses, okay? You spend the 10 minutes every other week to look in your local newspaper and see stuff, get online, see what's on the town board. Keith, do you have something that maybe you'd like to add? I mean, I know this lady, you know, and I know what they've gone through. And they used to own the building that's been in contention for a while, okay?
But the town doesn't do competition, it's not our issue.
No.
And that's to your question, that's been litigated more than a few times. And the courts are like, no.
Right, not only that, these folks are spending a lot of money in engineering, and they presumably did a lot of market research. Right. And said, yep, we can make money with the gas station.
That's their business plan.
That's their business.
That's their business model.
That's it, if you wanna come in and build a better pizza, you can't, you know what I mean?
They run the demographics, they know what the.
Right.
That's the way it is.
And by the way, they may fail miserably, or they may succeed, not our problem.
Right, yeah, you know, that's,
Yeah, I move weird,
exactly the way you said it. I mean,
Second.